20th September 2024, we are going to discuss editorials from Business Standard, Pioneer, Live Mint, even The Hindu also. First article here, why GST is a no longer good and simple tax. So GST we have discussed several times. Goods and service tax, this came into being in 2017. There are a lot of complications in the GST. This article discusses about reforms, how we need to simplify the GST. GST, this was supposed to be good and simple tax when it was introduced in 2017 because it almost took a decade for its preparation. After the latest meeting in the GST Council, we cannot perceive such thing. So there is no simplification process happening. Huge time was spent on reporting, revenue collections, even demerit goods, gambling, horse racing, such like. But reporting of rationalization, this was relegated to anticipated report from group of ministries. They have subsided this rationalization process. They are still discussing on demerit goods. This reverse prioritization of revenue over revealed this thing. GST has been misunderstood. GST is not a tax and whose foundation is based on the revenue collection. GST not for revenue collection. They should simplify the tax. They should make people very easy in filing the taxes. The tax first thing objective is to minimize distortion in the market that is caused by high and multiple tax rate. And then this tax rate should achieve a large and uniform tax base. This should guarantee taxes paid on all inputs that are refunded to suppliers such as producers and sellers in production or distribution process. This thing will ensure any tax that is paid on inputs does not get involved in the outputs. There is no hidden tax or tax. Basically, in tax terminology, we call no cascading. Basically, you put in inputs when output you are generating. Suppose I am investing in manufacturing of the pens. Again, I am selling the pens. Again, I am putting tax on that. Initially, for raw materials, I am paying tax. And then again, for outer materials also I am paying. Like for selling pen also I am paying tax. This tax and tax, basically cascading effect, this should be avoided. Without that, productivity, activity takes place through hurdles, obstacles that requires, like a lot of efficiency, productivity, all those things. This will make suppliers of the goods and services, they will suffer a lot. Once this correct base and rate structure is set, automatically the GST will become a good revenue generator. Why? This is because it will reduce economic distortion because tax cascading, this will be cut down when credit given to supplier for the tax he has paid on these purchases. This smooth supply of the chain, this will generate economic growth with minimal market troubles caused by taxes. There are select changes in the base rates that were announced on the goods and services, like exemption on electricity charges, waiver on interest of the penalty of demands for trade facilitation. These things will enhance and then will make GST as a good and simple tax. There are several affiliation services are there related to university. They will continue to be taxed at 18%. So it will be 5% on helicopter services, flying training services. Those will be exempted. While these affiliation services by CBSE remain taxable, those provided by government schools, that is also under exempt. These kind of tax disturbances, this will put a lot of issues in the long run. Even there was intended reduction of the tax rate on insurance premium that was announced, but so much decisions are discussing on. There are even bundle of other rate changes including namkeen, saveer, that has to be brought down from 18% to 12%. These changes, they appear like revenue collection through selective exercise by GST. They also reflect micromanagement bargaining within the council over like GST structure. Further, these kind of specifications, they are usually impossible to implement efficiently. For exempt and non-exempt goods, they overlap in their classification. So as goods and services, they also give rise to continued lobbying for lower rates. Instability in rates is the placy of GST. Stable GST regime, this is elaborated in the recommendation of the 2015 Tax Administrative Reforms Commission. A simple rate structure with broad base, this will be crucial anchor for GST. The GST should compromise general rate, a lower rate for essential goods, higher rate for luxuries, three rates together with broad base as possible with the fewest exemptions. These things will make GST a good condition. It is also claimed GST achieved a structure similar to this, but structure remains much more complex. Only after this meaningful simplification it can be called genuine GST. Further, from taxpayer side of view, ease of payment, regularity of the refund, they are crucial elements in their willingness not to avoid on the tax. The role of the GST Council, this should be pour into easing the process in GST administration. This should ensure truly convert the taxpayer those are willing to pay because of the simplicity and customer facilitation. There are several crucial gaps remain. One example, institutional delays in making refunds after exports are made. International practices of advanced administrations, they are to make refunds on the immediately and the same time monitor the control of illegal tax evasion. Those things that is not happening. Tax evasion is happening at the great rate. There are Cayman Islands are there. So how companies they are starting their industries on this tax haven, they are sending money through here, so that GST failed to accommodate this thing. Indian tax administrative requires various proofs before refund. This makes the export activity very challenging. This will lead to incidents of the tax avoidance, if not evasion. This is based on the subsection of the various taxpayers. They will avoid the tax instead of the evading. Consequently, because of all these things, the population of the taxpayer they suffer because of the illegal action of the few. Then all will take same actions. Recently, audit was conducted by central and state administrations. Taxpayer in Bihar importing goods from Bengaluru, Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, they may be picked up by administration of any of those states or by central administration. Whether in practice that is happening or not, truly there is an unwritten division of the jurisdictions among the administrators. So many people are controlling. These are several issues that GST Council should address rather than few rate changes and revenue gains. They come up with few products, demerit goods here and there. Such a kind of changes will not solve. We need to attack at the grassroots levels where the issue is remaining. So those kind of thing will make GST a more reformable tax. So there was even a promise to simultaneously populating GST output and input written forms. So that is also not happening. Once these output forms are filled, input forms will be automatically filled in. This way, there would be no possible of overclaiming the input tax credit. This is the crucial instrument to check tax evasion. This is employed in advanced GST and value-added tax administrations. In the absence of this thing, central and state administration, they can prevaricate GST audit and all sorts of issues. Until this successful implementation of this thing achieved, GST will remain without automatic cross-verification characteristic. So council should ensure that this thing should happen. This value-added tax administrators, they should ensure that this automatic input and output credit rate is happening at greater rate. Finally, author says there is a reminder for overall design of the direct versus indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, they are based more on the consumption because of the higher portion of the poorer households budget than the richer ones. When economy moves forward, economy advances, the direct tax rate and then share also including income and income related taxes, there will be increasing comparison with indirect taxes including GST also. So we have to have progressive income tax rate that surpasses regressive indirect taxes. What is progressive? Progressive taxes laid on the income taxes. Those who are employees, they will be charged. Regressive taxes, indirect taxes, basically they are based on whatever the, suppose say you are buying some milk packet, there will be some tax is there. That is indirect taxes. That is regressive because 90% of the people in India, they are under middle class family or below poverty lines. So those people, if they want to buy all these things, if you are taxing them, that is regressive tax. One side we are bringing lot of schemes for their welfare, another side we are taxing means These things need to be addressed in greater manner by GST Council. The steady attempt to expand this income tax base, India should achieve this 50-50 share, income and direct and indirect tax. But in the recent years, see, because of the lack of emphasis on expanding the base and direct tax rate, there is higher incidence of custom duties. The share of indirect taxes, this has been growing. So this will move India away from the advanced economic tax system. Recently, we discussed several articles about India's Viksit Bharat goal. If India wants to become Viksit Bharat by 2047, and if we want to advance towards economic tax system, we should understand this system in greater details. This is the article about. Next article we will discuss with stringent bail rules. How the bail rules and other laws related to bails. Supreme Court in Shajan Cheria versus Kerala case in 2024, while giving this anticipatory bail in the FIR registered under this SC/ST Atrocities Act 1918, Supreme Court told and even guidelines for granting anticipatory bail. What is anticipatory bail? This anticipatory or pre-arrest bail, this will be sought by a person because who apprehends arrest in the FIR that is registered or likely to be registered against him as a non-bailable offence. You cannot be given bail. So he will be sought anticipatory bail. It is even presently governed by Section 482 of the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, earlier Section 438 of the Criminal Procedure Code, 1973. On the contrary, to curb these historical atrocities committed against scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, Parliament enacted SC/ST Act Prevention of Atrocities in 1989. Besides several other things, this Act, Section 18, this will think not only granting anticipatory bail to non-SC/ST people if the FIR is registered against them for committing atrocities prescribed under Section 3, such as different form of untouchability, insult, again even insulting in the name of caste, those things. Because of the misuse of SC/ST Act, Supreme Court in Subhash Kashinath Mahajan versus Maharashtra, they told there is no bar against granting anticipatory bail in cases registered under the Act, because if no prima facie case is made out, even further told, arrest of the non-SC/ST person can be made only after approval from the Superintendent of Police, SP, or appointing authority if accused is public servant. Basically, suppose say one public servant is accusation happens, so then arrest of non-SC/ST person can be made after approval of superintendent, who will go to SP, district SP, and whether they will have time. These things we need to understand. There are several laws are there. This judgment, obviously, this became a lot of criticism, and then a lot of anger was drawn from SC/ST community. To prevent the effect, mitigate them, Parliament, they made amendment in 2018 to the Act by inserting Section 18A to SC/ST Act. This tells there is no requirement of prior approval of arrest. Even court judgment, anticipatory bail cannot be granted. Besides bringing amendment, Union government also filed a review petition for Supreme Court's 2018 judgment. Union of India versus Maharashtra in 2019, Supreme Court recalled 2018 judgment. This they told required approval before arrest. But nothing was discussed about anticipatory bail in 2019. Section 18A, this was challenged in Prithviraj Chauhan versus Union of India in 2020. Supreme Court rejected petition on the grounds it has already recalled in 2018 judgment. So they rejected basically. But Supreme Court told anticipatory bail can be granted if prima facie can be made out. In Shajan Skaria case 2024, by explaining this prima facie test, Supreme Court told necessary ingredients to constitute offence under SC/ST Act, they are not made out. So anticipatory bail can be granted. So basically you need to prove that the prima facie, basically you should prove that the situation has happened, some insult has happened or something has been done to SC/ST community, you should prove. Otherwise, you will be granted bail. That is the thing. It also told where a non-SC/ST person takes defense of malicious protection because of their political or private vendetta, anticipatory bail cannot be granted in that case. So Supreme Court gave a lot of guidelines, but in simple word, if you want to say, in order to give this anticipatory bail, court have to see if an allegation falls under section 3 of the act. It also need to see preliminary inquiry to determine there are whether essential ingredients are made out. This is prima facie test. Though the objective behind laying down parameters for determining prima facie test, this was to ensure personal liberty, because we need to safeguard individual liberty against the arbitrary arrest. This should be welcome move, but these parameters are very strict. The test even alleged by this should not attract ingredient of offence that was laid down in state of Haryana versus Bhajan Lal. They even asked to quash the entire case against accused. This is now introduced in the grant anticipatory bail in SC/ST case. Further, in the defense of this malicious prosecution because of the personal vendetta, they are not being allowed to defeat the purpose of parameters that is being laid down the cases, because all that SC/ST person requires is to draft complaint by adding necessary ingredients prescribed under section 3 of the SC/ST act. Even yes, Supreme Court recently Manish Sisodia versus Directorate Enforcement case told trial courts and high courts they attempt to play in matters of granting bail. So such stringent condition, they will not only make session high courts play it safe by denying these anticipatory bail. This will lead person to approach SC Supreme Court. This will require huge legal expenses in order to obtain anticipatory bail. So this obtaining this kind of anticipatory bail in SC/ST cases, this becomes Herculean tax. Even if Supreme Court grants it, but it is like at what? At huge cost. This article is like, we are not indebted to harm, criticize any SC/ST person. But the fact remains that even today, SC/ST people face atrocities in some form or other. At the same time, there should be a check against people who try to misuse the law against non-SC/ST people, because Constitution guarantees equal protection and enjoyment of rights to everyone. So therefore, we should advance balanced approach that need not be culled out. In Gurbaksh Singh Sibia versus Punjab in 1980, landmark ruling was given on anticipatory bail parameters. While giving under section 438 of the Criminal Procedure Code, they laid down seriousness of allegations, flight risk because accused persons not being secured a trail, tampering with evidence, on pressuring witnesses. All these things were witnessed in Gurbaksh Singh Sibia versus Punjab. These kind of parameters, they are allowed in all cases pertaining to bail. In SC/ST cases, while applying all these parameters for the prima facie test, the seriousness of allegations could be tested in more detail from perspective of humiliation. So because untouchability, this should be a kind of social stigma. These things need to be avoided. So basically, article discusses about several laws and several rules that have been given by Supreme Court and Government of India on bail rules related to SC/ST Atrocities Prevention Act. Next article, it is about international relations. Indian leadership, how it is enduring, how India's position has been made great in world domain. So we'll discuss this article in detail. Recently, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, he delivered lecture at Indian Council of World Affairs on August 20. The subject was towards a rising global south, leveraging Malaysia and India ties. Even Anwar told on his vision about global south. We, in the amidst of all these challenges, we should find all the diversity, differences, discretions. More importantly, he told about the rise of the global south. It is not to exclude global north, but we need to work together as equal within our complex strategic context. Anwar Ibrahim, he praised about India's role in imparting energy to the evolution of position of the global south. He said, India is keeping with the principle of cooperating with global north. So even he told, India welcomed this reality with grace, forevision, and more importantly with a plan. India's excellence at a G20 chairmanship last year, inaugural voice of the Global South Summit, they made clear India is prepared to shape global South agenda with its partners hand in hand. This high prize came after like leader whose scholarship and intellectualism this has acknowledged worldwide. This kind of scholarship and intellectualism this has been honored through years of political experience, suffering, study, because Anwar has seen Islamism. This is concomitant of inclusivism. We need to avoid like terrorism and all. These are all things are music to the ears of Narendra Modi's government. But India's leadership emerged from freedom movement leader who gave shape to republic in its formative years, Jawaharlal Nehru. Also, several things have been discussed. So basically, when you see Hindu article, basically it is kind of more oriented towards Congress. So we don't discuss much about political issues, but we'll discuss about the content. India's leadership, how it is growing, whether how Jawaharlal Nehru has done, how Narendra Modi has been doing. We don't need to dwell into Congress or Bharatiya Janata Party. We don't need to discuss all these things. But what we need is whether our country is progressing or not. From our point of view, we need to discuss polity, not politics. So remember that. Even Anwar told about Nehru's, because Nehru reputation abroad. This has not been tarnished. Jawaharlal Nehru has done many things. Almost like several things have been discussed about Jawaharlal Nehru. There are several things about politics. We are not discussing this thing. Even Anwar told about one thing. Swami Vivekananda. There are several ideas we need to learn from ideas from this land, accompanied by words such as blessings behind them, peace before them. Several times these words have been used by Swami Vivekananda. Remarkably, he told Vivekananda was a chief disciple of Ramakrishna, and recall this Gandhiji, hate the sin and not the sinner. These kind of quotes, they are not, they are not kindly practiced in world in certain areas. Now war is happening everywhere. Ukraine, Russia, Israel, and Palestine. These kind of wars, Gandhi's quotes, they will become very relevant in the current context. So even Ravindranath Tagore also has been pointed out. So these things always discuss about India's leadership, how it endured. So in broad view, India's present policies, they ensure power of the global digital technology that are need to be harnessed for popular welfare, that is gaining for positive attention of the global south. These are the practical measures that will become great importance in the lives of the poor people everywhere and very important for the governance. So even invoke foreign admiration, because world will also learn from us. There are several political, social and ideologies. We have a Parivar as inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, even others. So we need to understand these issues in order to improve our India's leadership conditions. So this is article about, more or less they discuss more about politics. So leave those things. There are several good points, you can catch them. So we discussed 3 articles today. Thank you very much for discussion.